I never thought the man who held my hand at my mother's funeral would be the one plotting to steal my inheritance. You think you know the person sleeping next to you. You think you know their heart and their absolute boundaries. But desperation is a funny thing. It slowly erodes a person until they're nothing but a hollow shell of survival instincts and lies. My name is Clara, and for 5 years, I was married to Mark. To the outside world, and honestly, to me for a long time, Mark was the gold standard of a supportive husband. He was charming, worked in high-end software sales, and was incredibly patient. When my mom passed away unexpectedly, my world completely shattered. I'm an only child, and she was my best friend. The grief was so heavy. It felt like I was walking underwater. Mark stepped up in ways I didn't even know I needed. He handled the funeral arrangements, cooked the meals, and shielded me from the endless barrage of relatives. I trusted him completely and leaned on him entirely. When my mother died, she left me the one thing that mattered most in my family: the orchard house. It was a beautiful, slightly run-down Victorian home, sitting on 6 acres of old apple trees. It wasn't just real estate to me. It was my sanctuary. It's where I learned to ride a bike and where my biological dad planted a willow tree before he passed away. I couldn't bear to rent it out, but I wasn't emotionally ready to clean it out either. My stepdad, Arthur, gently suggested we just let it sit. He's a retired estate lawyer who loves me fiercely. Arthur always said that time is the only thing that clarifies a clouded mind. So the house sat empty for a year, a silent monument to my childhood. About 14 months later, Mark suggested we finally start tackling the house. He pitched it as a project for our future, wanting to take the burden off my shoulders. It sounded like an act of profound love. I thought it was the sweetest thing anyone had ever done for me. I handed over a chunk of my savings, thinking we were building our future. He made it sound so easy, so perfect. For a few weeks, everything was totally fine. He'd come home smelling like sawdust, talking a mile a minute about vintage plumbing and floorboards. I really believed he was spending his days fixing up my mom's house. But then things started getting kinda weird. The guy who used to leave his phone in the fridge by accident suddenly had it glued to his hand. He was always texting, always checking something. I asked him about it once, just casually. He laughed it off, said his company had some strict new security protocols. It sounded totally plausible, but my gut just did this weird little flip. Then the late nights started. I'd wake up at 3 in the morning, and the bed would just be empty. At first, I thought he couldn't sleep, but it kept happening. I'd get up to look for him, walking through the dark house, and I'd always see this harsh blue light spilling out from the kitchen. It felt so cold. He'd be sitting at the island, just staring at his laptop. His leg would be bouncing like crazy. He looked like a completely different person in that light. The second I walked in, he'd slam the laptop shut. It was so loud, it made me jump. He'd look at me with these wide, panicked eyes, like I just caught him committing a crime. He'd immediately get super defensive. He claimed he was just checking crypto markets, that the volatility was stressing him out. But if I asked even one question, he'd snap at me. He'd look right at me and say, "Why can't you just trust me?" That became his favorite weapon. He twisted everything around until I felt like the crazy one. I started shrinking myself just to keep the peace. The first real red flag wasn't even emotional. It was financial. I went to the bank to transfer some cash for a car repair. The teller casually mentioned our joint savings was basically empty. 30 grand, just gone. When I confronted Mark that night, he didn't even flinch. He just launched into the super technical, fast-talking excuse about liquidity freezes and bridge loans. He talked in circles until my head was spinning. He made me feel so stupid for not understanding high-level finance. But you don't need a finance degree to know 30 grand doesn't just vanish. I decided to drive out to the orchard house the next morning, totally unannounced. Mark swore it was a dangerous disaster zone full of scaffolding. I had to see it for myself. When I pulled up to the property, my heart just dropped. There was no scaffolding, no contractor trucks anywhere. Instead, the bushes were perfectly trimmed and the porch was swept clean. I walked inside and the air was just knocked out of my lungs. The house wasn't being renovated. It was being staged. My mom's antique furniture was rearranged. All our family photos were gone. The nail holes painted over. Sitting right there on the kitchen counter was a glossy brochure from a luxury real estate agency. My mind went completely blank. I couldn't process what I was looking at. Why would a realtor be involved in a renovation? While I stood there paralyzed, a sleek black car pulled into the driveway. A woman in a sharp business suit stepped out holding a clipboard. I walked out to the porch, my whole body literally shaking. She introduced herself as an appraiser. Said she was there to finalize the valuation for an upcoming private listing. I somehow managed to keep my voice steady. I told her there was a scheduling mistake and sent her away. As soon as her car disappeared down the road, I just lost it. I sat down on the steps of my mother's house and sobbed. The betrayal was so heavy I could barely breathe. I knew I couldn't confront Mark that night. He'd just spin another web of lies. I needed proof, and I needed help. So I called my stepdad, Arthur. I told him everything. I barely remember the drive home. Arthur told me to grab every piece of paper Mark wanted me to sign. He'd handed me this massive stack of tax forms just 2 days ago. I hadn't signed them yet, thank God. I shoved the whole pile into my bag. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely zip it. I knew this would destroy my marriage. The next morning, I drove straight to Arthur's office. I didn't sleep a wink. My stomach was in absolute knots the entire ride. I just needed someone to tell me I wasn't crazy. Arthur's office always smelled like old paper and leather. It was my safe place. Walking in there felt like finally coming up for air. I knew he'd figure it out. I dumped the whole stack right on his desk. I didn't even know where to start explaining. I just let the papers do the talking. Arthur didn't say a word. He just put on his glasses and started reading. For 10 agonizing minutes, the only sound was his grandfather clock. I felt like I was on trial. Then he just stopped. He pulled one specific document out from the middle of the pile. I saw his jaw tighten. That's when I knew it was really bad. He looked up at me, and his eyes were terrifying. It was this mix of deep pity and absolute cold fury. He told me it wasn't a tax return. It was a power of attorney. Right underneath it was a quitclaim deed. If I had signed those sticky notes, Mark could have sold my childhood home without me. The room started spinning. I felt physically sick. I kept asking why he would do this. He made great money. Arthur leaned back in his chair. He said people don't steal $2 million houses unless they're in desperate, immediate trouble. Arthur didn't waste a single second. Over the next 2 days, he basically turned his office into a war room. He called in every favor he had with private eyes and forensic accountants to dig into Mark's life. What they found was an absolute nightmare. Mark wasn't doing crypto. He was gambling. It started small with sports betting, but then it spiraled into high-stakes online poker and illegal underground rings. He lost everything. His savings, his retirement, and the 30 grand from our joint account. But the worst part? He owed over $600,000 to some really dangerous people, and they wanted their money.
I just wanted to scream. I was ready to drive straight home, throw all his clothes out the window, and demand a divorce right on the spot. I wanted to burn his whole life down.
But Arthur stopped me. He told me if I confronted Mark now, he'd just deny it and destroy the evidence. He said Mark was a cornered animal, and cornered animals do desperate things. Arthur said we couldn't just call him out. We had to let him trap himself. He started laying out this brilliant, legally airtight plan. For the first time in months, I actually felt a spark of power. Arthur took the real documents and locked them away. Then he drafted a fake version of the power of attorney. It looked exactly the same, but legally, it was completely void and totally useless. He handed the fake papers back to me. My job was to sign them, hand the stack back to Mark, and act like everything was totally normal. I had to play the naive, grieving wife one last time. Looking at that fake document, something inside me shifted. All that fear and paranoia I'd been carrying around just vanished. I wasn't scared anymore. I was just ready to watch him dig his own grave. With my part set, Arthur made one last call. He reached out to an old colleague, a retired judge named Harrison. Harrison loved amateur theater, and Arthur had the perfect role for him. He was going to play our eccentric, wealthy cash buyer. It only took a few days for Mark's broker to quietly float the off-market listing. Within 24 hours, they got a bite. A wealthy, eccentric, out-of-town investor looking for a quick cash close. I watched Mark pace the living room, practically vibrating with relief. He was extra sweet to me that week. He came home with expensive flowers and this huge, charming smile. He kept telling me how much he loved me and how great our future was going to be. Knowing what I knew, his affection literally felt like poison. He even cooked this lavish dinner, pouring wine and laughing like we didn't have a care in the world. I just sat there, forcing a smile while my stomach completely tied itself in knots. It was terrifying to see how easily he could lie right to my face. The morning of the closing, he packed a small overnight bag. He casually mentioned he had to go out of town for a quick software conference. He even promised we'd take a romantic vacation as soon as he got back. I just smiled and told him to have a safe trip. I watched him walk out the door, playing the supportive wife right to the very end. As soon as the door clicked shut, the act was over. I knew exactly where he was actually going. He was heading into the city to sell my childhood home. Friday morning finally arrived. Mark thought he was meeting the cash buyer at a neutral escrow office. What he didn't know was that the office was actually a conference room in Arthur's law firm. Arthur had it temporarily staged to look like a generic title company. I was sitting in the adjacent room, separated only by a wall. Arthur had set up a live intercom system so I could hear everything. I just sat there, gripping a hot cup of coffee. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it was going to crack my ribs. Then I heard the heavy oak door open. Mark walked in, sounding overly confident and completely in his element. He thought he was walking in with a valid power of attorney. He fully believed he was about to walk out with a cashier's check that would save his life. Sitting across the table was Judge Harrison. He was playing the role of the eccentric, wealthy investor to absolute perfection. He looked intimidating, authoritative, and completely unbothered. Mark didn't suspect a thing. I listened through the speaker as Mark greeted the judge. He was laying the charm on so thick, making jokes about the real estate market. He sounded so relaxed, so completely in control. It made me sick to hear how easily he could perform. I heard Judge Harrison speak through the speaker. His voice was gruff, heavy, and completely authoritative. He said he'd reviewed the power of attorney. Then he looked Mark dead in the eye and asked if I was aware of the transaction. Mark didn't even hesitate for a second. He lied so smoothly, saying I trusted him completely with our finances. He told the judge I just wasn't good with paperwork. He actually sat there and said I was thrilled about the sale. Sitting alone in that dark room, a single tear rolled down my cheek. It wasn't out of sadness or grief or even anger. It was the sheer, terrifying realization of how easily he could lie about my life. He didn't even blink. I heard the rustle of heavy paper through the intercom. Judge Harrison pushed the stack of documents across the table. He told Mark to sign right there on the dotted line. He said once the ink dried, the transfer would be complete. Through the speaker, I heard the sharp scratch of a pen. Mark actually signed it. He put his name on those fake papers and crossed the point of no return. In that exact second, he officially committed fraud. The trap had finally snapped shut. Mark was probably already imagining how he was going to spend the money. But before he could even put the pen down, the heavy oak door to the conference room opened. The silence in the room shifted instantly. I heard Arthur's calm, measured footsteps walk into the room. He didn't rush, he didn't storm in. He just walked in with the quiet authority of a man who holds all the cards. The air in that room must have frozen solid. There was a long, suffocating silence. Then Arthur said hello to Mark, and his voice was like absolute ice. I could practically hear the color draining from Mark's face. His arrogant, confident facade crumbled into dust in a matter of seconds. Mark started to stammer, his survival instincts kicking into overdrive. He tried to act outraged, asking Arthur what the hell he was doing there. He kept insisting it was a private closing. He was scrambling, desperately trying to hold on to the illusion. Arthur didn't even raise his voice. He didn't have to. He just looked at Mark and told him there was no closing. He explained that the man sitting across the table wasn't an investor, but a retired judge. Arthur didn't even blink. He just dropped a massive manila folder right onto the table. He started listing everything out loud. The offshore poker sites, the $600,000 he owed to loan sharks, the drained savings account. I was sitting in the room next door, listening to every single word. Hearing it all laid out like that, it just flipped a switch inside me. I stood up, finally ready to face him. I opened the door and walked right into the conference room. Mark's head snapped toward me and his eyes went completely wide. The arrogant guy I married was totally gone. He looked so small, just this terrified stranger drowning in his own mess. He choked out my name and took a step toward me. He started pleading, swearing he was gonna fix it all. He actually had the nerve to say he'd buy the house back once he hit a winning streak. He looked at me with this pathetic panic and said he just didn't want to lose me. I just looked at him and, honestly, I felt this overwhelming sense of calm. All that anxiety and paranoia that had been eating me alive for months just vanished. The truth really does cleanse you. My voice was completely steady. I told him he traded me a long time ago. I said he looked at my childhood home, the only piece of my mom I had left, and just saw a poker chip. He literally fell to his knees right there on the floor. He was crying, begging me, promising he'd go to rehab and change. But it was just noise. He was only mourning his own destruction. Arthur stepped right between us. He told Mark he had exactly 1 hour to pack his car and get out of my house. He promised that if Mark ever contacted me again, he'd hand the files straight to the prosecutor. And he made sure the loan sharks knew exactly where Mark was sleeping. Mark didn't say another word. He just stumbled out of that conference room, a completely broken man. I never saw him again. The divorce was swift, and honestly, it was ruthless. With all the evidence Arthur pulled together, Mark didn't have a leg to stand on. He walked away with absolutely nothing but the massive debts he created. I heard through the grapevine that he had to file for bankruptcy. He moved into some cramped apartment a few states over. Now he spends his days constantly looking over his shoulder, terrified of the people he owes. His grand plan to save himself completely backfired. I didn't exactly celebrate his downfall, but I definitely didn't pity him either. What I felt was just this profound, beautiful emptiness. The heavy space he used to take up in my mind was finally completely clear. It's been about 2 years since that crazy day in Arthur's office. And no, I never sold the orchard house. Instead, I packed up my life and I moved right in. I took whatever savings I had left and finally gave the place a proper renovation. I made sure to honor my mom's original design, keeping the soul of the house intact, but I also added my own little touches to make it mine. Rebuilding this house honestly felt like rebuilding my own life. Arthur comes over every single Sunday for dinner now. We just sit out on the wraparound porch, looking at the old apple trees and the lake. We drink our coffee and talk about absolutely everything, and sometimes nothing at all. He never says, "I told you so." He just sits with me in the peace we fought for. The house finally feels alive again, and more importantly, it feels safe. Every now and then, I'll walk past the kitchen island and get a flash of the past. I remember standing there, shrinking myself down, questioning my own sanity while he lied right to my face. I remember that paralyzing fear, genuinely thinking I was the crazy one. But then I just reach out and touch the solid, 100-year-old wood of the doorframe. And just like that, I'm grounded again, right back in the present. The ghosts of that anxiety just can't survive in the light of the truth. I had to learn the hard way about trusting my gut. When someone tries to make you feel paranoid for listening to your intuition, it's almost always because your intuition just caught them red-handed. You've got to hold on to your reality, no matter how hard they try to twist it. I never thought the guy holding my hand at my mom's funeral would be the one trying to destroy me. But I also never knew I have the strength to step back and let him fall right into his own trap. I survived the ultimate betrayal, and now I finally have my sanctuary back. This place is so much more than just a piece of real estate. It's the soil, the trees, the history. Walking through this orchard now, I finally feel connected to my family again. Those roots run way deeper than any lie Mark ever told. My dad planted this weeping willow when I was just a little kid. It's grown so much since then. Standing under it feels like a protective shield. It's a reminder of what real, unconditional love actually looks like. I spend a lot of time down by the lake now, just listening to the absolute quiet. For so long, my life was just this chaotic, noisy mess of anxiety. Now, my mind is finally as still as the water. Arthur really was my rock through this whole nightmare. He proved that family is about loyalty, not just blood. I'm so incredibly lucky to have him in my corner. He didn't just save my house, he helped me save myself. I even started baking again. This is the exact kitchen where my mom taught me how to bake. It feels so good to reclaim this space. Instead of fake real estate brochures, the counters are covered in flour and recipe cards. I bought some new frames for the hallway. Mark took down all my family photos to stage the house. But now, I get to choose what goes on these walls. I'm filling this place with people who actually love me. When the sun sets over the property, it's just breathtaking. The house isn't perfect. It has its flaws and its scars, but it weathered the storm. And honestly, so did I. Standing out here on the porch, I can finally breathe. That heavy anxiety in my chest is completely gone. I'm not that vulnerable, grieving woman anymore. I own my life again. Going through that betrayal was the hardest thing I've ever done, but it gave me a gift. It forced me to find my own strength. I survived his trap, and I came out stronger. The story of his deceit is finally over. This house is my sanctuary again. It's safe, it's mine, and it's full of light. My next chapter is just beginning.